Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Media Schmedia. As always, I am your host, Dave. And the lovely, beautiful, exquisite woman next to me is Lexi Sherwood. Say hello, Lexi.
Hello. Am I supposed to do the voice too?
No.
I don't think it'll sound so good if I try to do it.
No.
Hello.
Yeah, no.
Thanks. Screw you.
Leave
man.
it. Leave it to the professional. I am not a
Okay.
professional.
Yeah, you're not a professional.
Anyways, welcome to episode 2 of Media Schmedia. And before we foray into the magical land of Jesus Christ, this movie was really fucking long.
Oh my god.
I got a little bit of a story for you. This episode is probably pretty far spaced out from the first episode because for the longest time we were having problems with our recording setup. I didn't know what was going on. Like I said, I'm not a professional. I don't know like what sort of tips and tricks there are to recording stuff. But whenever I would record something, it would come out all metallic and tinny and sort of mushy sounding. So just one day I ended up shooting a message over to Casey from Groupcast, our sister podcast, and I ended up asking him, hey, listen, my recording isn't really going too well. Do you think maybe you could help us out or whatever? And I ended up sending a little test recording to him, and like the past couple recordings, it sounded all mushy and whatnot. So after maybe like an hour and a half of like troubleshooting and whatnot, I ended up like all great fixes in the world, I ended up thinking, let me just try and unplug the microphone and see what happens. And then I went to hit the record button, and it turns out I could still record. So, do you know what that means?
What does that mean?
That means that the whole time that we were recording with the laptop's built-in microphone.
Oh, and not yeah.
I had no idea that this laptop has a built-in microphone. It's not...
The more you
know. But, it turns out that, my laptop has a built-in microphone that I didn't know about. And the audio quality is terrible. So I ended up...
It's not a good microphone.
I ended up realizing that it had to be coming from the microphone itself, the problem. So I went, checked the drivers, and checked the devices on my laptop, and whenever I plugged in the Blue Yeti, which is the microphone that we're recording with now, it wouldn't recognize it. I mean, for some reason, the computer wouldn't show it. So I figured out it was either the microphone itself, which if that was the case, then it's pretty much a $100 paperweight to me. Or it was the cable. So I went downstairs to where we have all our cables, and I pulled out a new cable with a similar output and input, hooked that up, and voila, it worked like a fucking charm. So lesson learned.
Now we know.
Now we know. And knowing's half the battle. So, back on topic, the movie that we watched today
Oh, God.
was a wonderful little movie called Mr. Turner. What'd you think, Lexi?
Had I not been as tired as I was, because I had to wake up at 6 a.m., I had to be at work at 7, I worked for 8 hours today, I didn't get to take a nap or anything before you came over.
Right.
So I was like, the whole time we were here hanging out before the movie, I was struggling to stay awake. And I knew this movie was going to be a problem. The whole time during the movie, there were some parts where I wasn't having a hard time staying awake, but I was having a hard time sitting still because I get really squirmy when I'm bored.
Right.
And then I just kept falling asleep. And then towards the end of the movie, I just didn't give a fuck. I'm like, yeah I'm going to sleep.
This movie...
I just didn't care.
To put things into perspective, I've sat through a marathon of all 3 of the Lord of the Rings movies, which are really fucking long movies, as you all know, I'm pretty sure. They go for about, I want to say, 3 hours? This movie was what? I want to say 2 hours and 45 minutes?
It was.
Something like that?
Here, the movie started at 7 o'clock.
Right.
And that's when we started. So then the movie, we're watching the movie. I'm getting, like, squirmy and everything. So I decide, like, to go out to the bathroom. And I didn't bring my phone with me to the theater, so I left it at home. So I couldn't check the time or anything. So when I went to the bathroom, I asked the woman what time it was. And she told me it was 8:58. And I was like, oh, okay, so the movie should be over soon. Nope. And I really thought it was going to be over soon because when I came back from the bathroom, it was that part when they had like that play making fun of his paintings and everything.
Right. Well,
and then
we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
So I thought like maybe he's just going to like just drink himself to death. I was like, please, dear God.
Which is what I wanted to do by the time that the movie was almost over.
And we could have apparently at that movie theater had we brought our RDs.
Which actually brings up an excellent point. We actually saw this movie at the Majestic in Gettysburg, and I've never been there before. The only movie theaters that I've ever been to were the RC theaters in Hanover, which is the one that I go to the most.
Gateway.
And the Gateway, which is the big local cinema in Gettysburg. This place, it usually plays. I don't want to say indie movies, but more
not indie, but like more art house kind of movies because they played like this movie and
more low key and off the radar
movies. Like Boyhood played there. I think I'm pretty sure Whiplash was playing there at one point.
It was,
and Birdman.
Same with Birdman.
Yeah, like movies that are like that they're recognized, but they're not as recognized as other movies.
More low key under the radar movies.
Yeah,
and It was a very nice theater, surprisingly.
It was a very nice theater. They redid it, I think, a few years ago. I think so, because it was different. Because we used to go there to watch the movies because before we didn't have the for the longest time we didn't have the Gateway or the Frank Theaters out by the outlets. Like the Frank Theaters wasn't built till I was like in middle school, I think.
Okay.
And I think that's around the same time that the Gateway Theater was built, like not too long after the Frank. So for a while there, the Majestic Theater was the only theater in Gettysburg.
Right.
And they would play, because I remember they played I remember going there to see Finding Nemo. Mm-hmm. At one point, and also the Phantom Menace.
Ooh.
At one point.
Ow.
I was a kid.
Yeah.
My mom took me and my brother to see it.
But it was a very impressive theater not impressive in your normal sense where there's like a bunch of different theater rooms.
There's only 2 theaters.
There's only 2 theaters, and they have from what I understand really spaced out showings. But it just has a very classy feel to it. I mean, you walk in there and you see all these different paintings and like different like art stuff and whatnot.
Like, it was really cool how they had like all the older posters. Like they had the one
like
with
I saw like a James Dean poster.
Yeah, Rebel Without a Cause, and I forget what the other ones were, but they were like older movies. The posters. It was pretty cool that they had those up.
But yeah, it was a very nice theater. Especially when you take into account that the popcorn and the all the snacks and whatnot that they had were very cheap compared to a bigger chain.
Yeah.
And not only that, they also serve alcohol, which would have really helped out.
It's something we should have partaked in.
Something I'm kicking myself for not getting, but overall it was a very nice theater. And I just wish that we saw I don't know. I don't know if I want to call this a bad movie.
I don't know. I don't want to say it's a bad movie. I think there are really good aspects to it.
Right.
Like, the cinematography was gorgeous at some part. Like, there were some scenes that looked like they were a painting.
Right.
And, it was gorgeous cinematography. And, I mean, for the most part, the acting was pretty good. There was maybe, 1 or 2 parts that I maybe you don't agree with me, but I felt were a little over the top.
Yeah.
But I mean, but you know, it was only like maybe once throughout the whole movie that I can think of. But I don't think it was a bad movie. I think
I wouldn't call it a bad movie. I would call it more of a boring, somewhat boring movie.
I think
that was drawn out way too long.
I think, you know what? I just thought of this. It kind of us in the theater. I don't know if you watched Seinfeld.
I watched it here or there.
There was like one episode of Seinfeld where Elaine went to go see The English Patient. Okay. And she's like in the theater and the movie's going. She's like, "Shut up and die already!" Like yelling in the theater. That's how we felt in this movie.
Yeah. So the movie Mr. Turner that we went to go see, it's basically the basic. I don't want to call it a plot because it has a very interesting style of story in this movie, but it pretty much follows this guy Mr. Turner, who's I want to say a Victorian, like a late Victorian era painter.
That sounds about right. Because I want to say, yeah, it was like 18 something because they had the photographs and everything.
Right.
So yeah.
So the late Victorian era, and it's pretty much just this guy living his life. It actually mirrors a specific movie that I've seen that I would say is a much better movie, especially doing what this movie was doing, and somewhat failing at times, is There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis, which it's pretty much, it's a very similar movie. I mean, you got a person, this guy, this oil baron, who's around probably during, I want to say towards the end of the era of like people moving to the west and whatnot. It pretty much chronicles him.
The Gold Rush?
Well, just people moving out west in general.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just like Wild West sort of stuff.
Wild West.
Wild West. Not that movie.
We don't talk about that movie.
Yeah, we don't talk about that movie.
I've never seen that movie.
Neither have I. I've heard a lot of bad things about it though.
We'll just leave it at that.
Right. Excuse me. But anyways, it's very similar to There Will Be Blood, in which it follows a person in sort of a transitional time period, just pretty much following the person and him just living his life and things that happen, which when done right, I think can be a better, like a different, like a change of pace as compared to other movies that are more story driven.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's kind of like, it's kind of the same thing with Boyhood too.
Right.
Where it's not, I haven't seen it yet, but from what I heard, Boyhood's really similar in the way that like there's no story. It's just this family living its life.
Right.
And all the stuff that happens to them. So, and I mean, like, it can work at times.
When it's done right. Keyword done right. In this movie, putting the length aside, I would say that it felt pretty unfocused.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Which in There Will Be Blood, to draw a comparison, it was, while there wasn't that much of like a story and there was a lot of like, you know, like side things, it felt like you were following this guy as he like through his life, like through his career and whatnot. But this movie, it felt like just things were happening and this guy just happened to be there and stuff.
It's just kind of like,
stuff happens.
I mean, it kind of like felt like, for me, it felt like all the scenes were just unconnected.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, this happened. And then it was just never referenced again. Like,
right.
They had that whole scene with like the lady putting the mirror or whatever in the window.
Right. That one lady who sort of showed up and then disappeared as she was.
And then that was
she was a Scottish intellectual, I think, maybe like a teacher or something like that.
I am not the person to ask.
But she was doing like some sort of science experiment, which I don't know how Mr. Turner, the character Mr. Turner, knew this lady.
Well, they don't explain how he knew her. They don't explain like what they don't really explain what the experiment was. She just kind of did it.
Right.
And they don't really explain, like, what the experiment had to do with him. Like, why...
Why she was doing it at his residence.
Right. It just kind of... She just kind of showed up and
Right.
it happened.
It's... Yeah, it's pretty unfocused. But I find myself, you know, sort of... I don't know. I would give it like maybe like a 5 or 6 out of 10.
I think for someone who really enjoys...
Just sort of like a middle of the road kind of thing.
I think for someone who really enjoys biopics, they'll probably really like this movie.
Yeah.
Maybe if I had actually known who this artist was, I might have enjoyed it
I don't
more.
even know if he's an actual artist or if this is just
that-
like a made up story.
I kind
I don't
of
know.
hope... I hope he was an actual artist and they didn't just make it up, but,
Right.
I mean, who knows, right?
Right. Well, it's interesting though. We
I'll have to look it up, I guess.
the first time that we ever heard of this movie was when we went to go watch Whiplash. And I don't know if you
right.
I don't know if you remember or
Remember.
I don't know if you I don't know if you remember, but there was a trailer for this movie right before we watched Whiplash on the DVD.
Yeah, that's how I heard of it too, because I saw it on the DVD.
Right. And the movie that it was portraying felt...
I felt like it was going to be this thing where, like, he's going to be, like, the starving artist, and he's going to have to, like, overcome a lot of obstacles.
Right, it felt like the movie was going to be, like, some sort of light-hearted romp with, like, a lot of heart or something like that.
Yeah.
And if that's what you're expecting going into this movie, that's
not.
I
feel like a lot of times it's pretty kind of dark a little bit.
Yeah, it can be pretty dark, especially one scene. We'll talk about that later.
We don't talk about that scene.
Oh, we're gonna talk about.
Well,
it.
I have a theory. Well, I'll explain my theory when we get to talking about that scene, though.
But shit, where was I?
Lighthearted romp.
Right.
Lighthearted romp.
Lighthearted romp. It's very dry. This movie.
Oh fuck yeah, it's dry.
This movie is so goddamn British that I went to go pull my wallet out of my pants and like 5 fucking tea bags just spilled out of my pockets. I don't even know how they got there.
I don't know what happened.
I don't know how they got there.
They just fell out.
But they just showed up. That's how British this movie is.
Doctor Who showed up in his TARDIS.
It's just any humor that's in this movie.
I don't know very many. James Bond came in. I don't know very many British references.
You done?
And I'm just sounding like an asshole.
You done?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah?
Go drink my Coke.
Yeah, you drink that Coke.
I will drink that Coke.
Any humor that is in this movie, and it shows up rarely. It's very British. You know, like you know that kind of British.
Well,
humor,
like,
if that makes any sense.
The part when like the one girl, I don't know where the fuck they were, but like the girl's singing, and she's singing about a woman with loose morals.
Right, and
shall we say?
Yeah,
there's one guy that literally gets up and runs out of the room.
It's a really weird scene. I like Lexi said before. It doesn't have much to do with anything.
None of the scenes really have anything to do with anything. And then there's like that other scene where like he's talking to the girl playing and then he starts fucking singing. Which I really wish he hadn't.
This movie has a pretty bad track record for having actors sing. Because the guy...
the girl that was singing wasn't that bad.
Yeah, but she could break like fucking glass with that voice. Like when she got up into the high notes.
Maybe they should paint a picture of her and then put it over the Hogwarts, the Gryffindor common room house.
What are you getting at?
I don't know. No, because in Harry Potter, they have like you have Slytherin, Gryffindor, and stuff.
Okay.
Well, like to get into the house, common room, there's a painting, and you have to say the password to the painting.
Okay.
And then it's like in the third movie, there's a woman. The painting's a woman, and she sings, and she's like singing really high, and she's not letting him in, and then she like breaks the glass, like, oh, my voice broke the glass. And it's fun. You gotta watch the movie.
Okay.
But that's what you said, break glass. But you know, speaking of Harry Potter, I mean, Peter Pettigrew was starring in this movie, so it all.
What? Do you know that actor's name?
I read it. Oh God, I read it on the credits, and I can't remember because my short-term memory is shit.
It's Pat something, maybe.
He was in the King's Speech too. He played
He played Churchill.
Churchill
in that
yeah.
movie, which was a really weird casting.
That was a really weird casting.
Yeah, I don't know. He got like the sort of ride British humor, but in the looks
They
department,
also cast him as Churchill for the 2012 Olympics opening ceremonies.
Did they really?
Yeah, I think so. He showed up, did something.
Anyways, the Peter Pettigrew from fucking Harry Potter, and he also played Churchill. He's the main character. He plays Mr. Turner. Personally, I think he did a good job. But man, the amount of grunts this guy does, like...
I think he does that in general.
Does he do that in general?
I'm trying to think. Well, he's not, like, he's in Harry Potter, but he's not, like, in Harry Potter a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't really do it. He does look like a rat, though.
Tell me, though, does he constantly look like he's sucking on some sort of sour lemon or something like that? Is that just his face?
Not in Harry Potter, not that.
Okay.
Because he has, like, rat teeth in Harry Potter because he was, like, a rat for 12 years.
Imagine an old crotchety British man, kind of portly, sucking on, like, a lemon 24/7 and making, like, gorilla grunts. And you know, that kind of stuff. That's pretty much his performance.
Maybe my theory is maybe he just forgot his line, so he's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna go with this." Like Christopher Walken in Peter Pan, put me down.
And it's funny though because as the character gets older throughout the movie, the amount of like grunts and like head nods that he uses instead of actual speech just it multiplies. And it's pretty funny to watch. Like I could see somebody calling this movie like intentionally hilarious.
Maybe it was not.
But just for that performance alone.
Yeah, I guess they were like.
And speaking of weird performances, was that his wife?
Who?
The lady who showed up in the beginning and was all bitchy.
I'm assuming his like ex-wife maybe.
There's not much.
He was a. By the way, he brought new meaning to the term deadbeat dad.
Yeah.
Because like even dads who don't really have anything to do with their children will still say they have fucking children.
Right.
They'll still acknowledge their kids.
There's a bit of a. I don't want to call it
But again, it's not explained.
Like a side plot.
Barely. She only showed up in Tuesday. There's this woman that shows up, and I guess she's like, she has two young girls with her.
My theory is that it's this guy's estranged wife.
That's what I'm thinking. It's like
That's
his ex-wife or something, and she was getting mad at him because he wasn't paying child support or something.
Right.
Because she was talking about his his daughters and stuff.
Right.
But then, like, his one daughter dies, and then it's like he doesn't even.
It barely registers like a blip on his radar. Like he was more upset with his dad dying.
Yeah.
Than he was with his own daughter.
And then someone asked him if he has children.
Yeah,
he's like, no.
He did this really weird thing throughout the movie where, depending on where he would go, he would do multiple things. He would change his name.
Yeah, I thought you
Yeah, he would change his name, and he would for some reason constantly deny that he had children, which I don't know why. It doesn't explain it. I don't know. I guess maybe he.
Dick Poop didn't do the best job at explaining stuff.
Was he?
Yeah.
I don't think he was the director. Though.
Yeah.
I don't think he wasn't the director.
I'm gonna break all the rules for a second here and IMBD this.
Wait, that's a rule?
I say it's a rule.
Well, our good old friend Dick Poop.
Anyway,
AKA Dick Pope.
All I know is opening
He was
credits. I saw Dick Poop.
he was involved with the movie. I don't know what though.
Hold on. We are going to find out. Keep talking while I'm doing this, so there's not like awkward silence.
Awkward silence, awkward silence, awkward silence.
awkward.
But yeah, it seems to be a pretty common
no, he wasn't
theme.
the director.
What was he?
Hold on.
Okay.
On.
It seems
just says director Mike Leah.
Leah.
Yeah.
Leah.
You are only hope. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
But a common theme in this movie is shit does not get explained at all.
No, it doesn't.
Like at all.
No,
Just
it does not.
Things happen.
And I will, when you get to talking about the one scene, I'll explain my theory and how even more shit didn't get explained.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you wanted. Well, yeah. We'll just talk about the scene now.
Get this over with.
This movie was going fine in my book up until there's a certain scene. This is after his dad dies.
Yes, it is after his dad dies.
It's after his. It's sort of kind of set up in the beginning because when he comes back from this like trip that he's doing, to go on location and like paint stuff. He comes back to his apartment / house / whatever, and his secretary's there, and she's like asking him, "Hey, do you need anything else?"
Maid, not
Maid?
secretary.
Secretary, maid, same thing.
By the way, just tidbit, sidebar. Timothy Spall is the name of the actor that played.
Timothy Spall.
Just
Timothy Spall. Okay.
For your information.
I'm probably never going to remember that name.
I literally read it 20 minutes ago, and I still don't remember. I didn't remember. I had to look it up. Anyway,
but his maid.
Yeah, she was like the maid.
Well, some people will say over there.
His maid asks him, "Hey, do you need anything else?" And he's like, "Yeah, if you could go brew me a cup of tea." And then there's this awkward silence, and he sort of looks up at her, like glancing up at her. Cops a feel. I'm not even kidding. Straight up squeezes her boob.
He
and then,
did that
her
at the
inner
beginning
thigh.
of the movie too.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. That scene in the beginning.
Oh! I thought you were. Never mind.
No. I'm saying that they somewhat alluded.
That was at the very beginning. Yeah.
I thought it was just a comedy thing. I thought it was setting up
That's kind of a weird comedy thing.
I don't know. It wouldn't have surprised me if it went into some that was setting the tone or whatnot. But he ends up doing that, and that's pretty much, in hindsight, that's some foreshadowing to the scene that I will be talking about now. In which this guy, I don't know, does he rape her? Would you call that rape?
I don't know. I didn't think it was rape.
It seemed pretty rapey to me.
It seemed kind of rapey. However, when I was looking up the movie times for this movie, I did find a little bit of background. I did find a little, summary, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it said something about something in the summary said something about the maid being in love with him. So that scene I don't think was rape, just because at the beginning of the movie they established that there's already some sort of physical connection.
Okay.
And
I didn't pick up on this at all, by the way. I don't know.
Man, woman's intuition, man. I'm just more intuitive. I know. No, I probably would have thought that was rapey if I hadn't read this summary or whatever.
It seemed like a rape scene to me, but I guess we can classify it as a sex scene now. It was really fucking awkward.
It was really awkward.
All the air that was in the room just fucking gone.
And then it didn't help didn't help that we were in a room with a lot of like older people.
Yeah,
so I was
the
just kind of like,
I want to say about 95% of our audience was like over 50.
We were
the youngest couple
the
there,
youngest,
without a doubt.
Yeah, for sure we were.
So it's sort of like that awkward moment when like a sex scene happens, and you're watching a movie with your parents.
Yeah.
So
like when we were watching Gone Girl.
Yeah. So that moment right there just sort of, I don't know, it set things off for me, and set things going in the wrong direction, if you know what I'm saying. And there was actually another scene in which he got somewhat physical with the one lady the one innkeeper,
Booth.
right? Or Booth. I heard Booth.
I thought it was Booth.
But
the lady.
He ends up going to this inn a lot to paint like scenery and stuff like that there, and he ends up staying in this one inn, meeting this one lady. Her and her husband own the place. As he keeps going there over and over, it seems to unfold that her husband dies, and then he gets into a romantic relationship with the innkeeper.
For many years.
Right. And he ends up... There's this one scene where they end up, like making out and whatnot. Which, by the way, he was... he was making some weird pig noises. Like in all the love scenes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this guy's... Maybe he's just not used to it?
I don't know. It just made the whole...
I don't know.
It just made all the...
making at his house is like, that is not...
Yeah, it just made the scenes a lot more awkward, and she ends up going up to the room they stay in and say goodnight, and they end up making out. Luckily, though, it didn't show a love scene. I was afraid for my life that it was going to.
I was actually really nervous about
I was just sitting there like, no, please don't do that. Please don't do this.
Please don't do this to me, movie.
Please don't do it.
Don't do this to me.
Luckily, it didn't, though. But yeah, I want to say that scene where he makes love to the maid, I want to say that was okay. The point where things went downhill for me.
Here is my theory for that scene. I think, because now that I'm thinking about it, so like that happens, and I think like because they have the scene at the beginning where he like cops a feel or whatever.
Right.
So I think that's them trying to establish that there is like some sort of physical relationship between him and the maid.
Which it obviously failed because I took it.
Wait.
Okay.
Let me finish.
Fine.
No, it did fail. I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's them establishing some sort of relationship between him and the maid. The maid is taking it as more than a physical relationship, but I think for him it wasn't. But they don't elaborate on it, so there's really no telling. Because then you have, like, all that, and then, he starts the relationship with the innkeeper and everything, and then, like, he's away, and then she's like, oh, well, will I be seeing you tonight or tomorrow night? So I think that was her, like, she had, like, feelings towards him, and then plus towards the end of the movie, when I guess she was dying.
What? Yeah, what was up with that?
I don't fucking know.
It looked like she got the plague or something.
I don't know what happened, because that's when I was like, fuck it, and just started sleeping, and then I woke up, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, that was at the tail end of the movie where nobody was paying attention. Yeah. I'm sure.
So, and then that's when you were like, let's go, and I was like, no, we should stay.
Yeah, I wanted to bail out.
Honestly,
at one point it got too much for me.
So like, anyway, so I think maybe there was like some sort of physical relationship with them, and then she took it as more, and it didn't necessarily mean anything to him, because if you like saw her like in the scenes when whenever he was in the house trying to sell paintings and stuff, she was just kind of like hanging out,
right,
just watching. It was kind of creepy, and then and then I wish they wouldn't have gone on for the 3 or 4 minutes after he died, because it's her crying about it. But the movie obviously failed at explaining her, because they didn't focus on her enough. If that's
Yeah.
what they were trying to go for, if we were trying to, like, you know, if that's what they wanted us to feel bad for the maid because she lost this guy.
I had no idea what was going on at the end. I was just like, okay, your dude died. You have all his paintings. Why are you crying?
Sell that shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that he's dead, I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna be worth so much more.
But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head though with them not conveying it right, because
Yeah, when we got to the very end, that's what I was thinking. I was like, they obviously
Yeah.
didn't focus on her enough to convey it. And I think maybe had the movie, instead of like focusing on all the stuff that happened in his life, like all the stuff, all these like things that didn't go together,
right.
and just focusing on like his relationship with the maid and his relationship with the
Yeah, like-
innkeeper, and like also like him.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but if they focused on the love triangle more, it would have been better off for it. And that never happens.
And then the world exploded.
That never happens. I'm not a big fan of love triangles.
Nor
But-
am I.
You know, at least it would have made a cohesive story. At least it would have, gave you like an emotional through line to follow, to make some semblance of sense of what was going on.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
I don't even know where I am now. So shit.
You're in a basement.
I'm being held here against my will.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Yeah.
would have made a little bit better. Because there are biopics that are good.
I
It's
personally,
just, for me, I need a movie that has like a cohesive story, a beginning, middle, and end. This did not have that.
yeah.
And it was very, very, very hard for me to watch this movie because I was really tired. I didn't know what was going on.
I'm curious to see what your reaction to watching There Will Be Blood would be. I don't know. I think you would like it more than this movie.
I'd probably like that better, just from what you told me.
Yeah. Well, at least in There Will Be Blood, I would say that Daniel Day-Lewis's performance is a lot better than whatever the hell his name is. I forgot it already.
Timothy Spall?
Sure. Let's go with that.
I think that's it.
But Daniel Day-Lewis's performance in that movie, it in many ways carries
And that's
the
when
movie.
our review of Mr. Turner turned into our review, Dave's review of There Will Be Blood.
Well, I mean, there's similar connections between the two movies, But in There Will Be Blood, Daniel Day-Lewis's performance, I would say, carries the movie into being a great movie, as opposed to this, where I will admit that Timothy Spall, I got it this time. His performance was completely serviceable. I would say that there wasn't anything in there that was spectacular.
I agree.
So, that's pretty much where we stand at this point.
I agree. I think if anything, I think the cinematography was nice.
Yeah,
And the settings were nice. And I mean, if you're someone who really likes biopics or period pieces, then,
biopics, period pieces, or if you're a person who's very much into art,
then this is the movie for you.
then I would say that you may enjoy this movie.
If you can get past all the incohesiveness.
My advice would be maybe take a break halfway through.
Oh my god.
Like watch maybe like an hour. Go pause it, go out,
Yeah.
get something to drink, make a snack, read the newspaper.
I walked out to go to the bathroom 2 hours into the movie, coming back thinking it was going to be done soon. Because when I came back to the movie, that's when they were having that play or whatever, making fun of his painting.
Right.
And then he's getting drunk. I was like, okay, he's going to drink himself to death. Thank God. I didn't care how I knew this movie was going to end with him dying. I didn't care how it happened. I just wanted it to happen.
You can tell that your movie has failed if you're sitting there wanting your main character to die.
And then
to let the movie end.
And then they kept faking out something would happen. Oh, is he gonna die? And then no, we're gonna go on for another 10 minutes. And then they would do it again and again.
Right.
They did it. They did it 2 or 3 times.
They pulled a Return of the King. Is what they did.
I was dear God, just give me this sweet release of death. Either him or me. I don't care.
Yeah, it wasn't that good. It was not good. I feel like the reaction that I have would be less negative if the movie, like we've been saying multiple times, if the movie would have been shorter, like 2 hours tops.
That's
Hey,
what I
that's
thought it was
fine.
going to be. I thought it was going to be 2 hours.
2 hours tops. You probably, if you would have had a much better movie, sure, if you actually had like a continuing story through it. But hey,
Well,
if you would have
make...
kept the format to what it was and cut it off at 2 hours.
Yeah, if you're going to make a movie that is almost 3 hours long, it was pretty close to 3 hours.
Right.
If you're going to make a movie like that, like a movie with no cohesive story, where it's just like this guy's life and stuff, that's fine. But make it like an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes tops. You can't, because people aren't gonna. Because if you make it really long like that, like
People are gonna lose interest very fast.
yeah, if you're gonna make a movie almost 3 hours long, there has to be like a story,
Right.
like there has to be.
Right. So yeah,
And you have to focus on shit because I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So yeah, that's pretty much the movie. It's a bit of a mess. It's very pretty. Acting serviceable.
A lot of the
Length is absolutely terrible.
A lot of the I noticed this. It's not really that big of a deal, but I noticed like a lot of the actors in this movie were really plain.
Yeah.
Like very.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe
Which
that's
I'm not-
maybe
it's-
that's a reflection of the times.
Which
that
I'm
it was-
not complaining about it. It's just an observation. But a lot of the actors were like really plain, and then like
Yeah.
it got me thinking about like how, in like really popular movies today, how we always seem to cast pretty people. And it's like it's not really believable though if everyone's pretty, if everyone's good looking.
Oh, are you saying plain as in like plain looking?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying like plain as in like they're just sort of bland actors.
Oh no. Well, that too, but I meant plain looking.
Oh, okay.
But then it got me thinking how like, especially in popular movies, like we tend to cast people that are better looking.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe to hide the fact that a lot of movies coming out are not that good.
Yeah.
It's like here's someone pretty to look at
Yeah.
for 2 hours.
Here's some man candy or some
So then-
woman candy.
I mean, it's not a complaint. It's just an observation.
Yeah. But yeah, that's Mr. Turner in a nutshell. I
Good fucking
would not
lord.
recommend it. It's way
I
too long.
almost screamed
So.
hallelujah once the second the credits rolled. Everyone
Yeah.
was rolling out.
Yeah, it was not a fun experience.
Yeah.
But hey, what are you gonna do? You paid $8 for it. I want my money back? Sure. Do I want my time back? Yes,
Most
very much.
definitely.
But it's whatever. So that's
Well,
that.
now we know next time we go there to get booze.
Yeah.
Now we know.
Or we can pick a movie that doesn't suck.
Well, we're not gonna know if
Yeah, that's
when
true.
we pick it because we haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like a 50-50, really.
It's rolling the dice. It's chasing the green dragon, red dragon, double dragon.
Dragon.
The Dragon Ball
Z.
GT.
Kamehameha. Kamehameha. You walked into it. Goku.
Good night, everybody.